All right, guys. So we're at the point where we can start learning about conditional statements. Now, just to kind of review, we've already learned about the arithmetic operators, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, and modulus. What we didn't learn about is increment and decrement. Decrement. Okay, and all that is if I have a number, let's say I assign the value of x equals 20 in my code, then if I'm doing x plus plus, then x actually will increment up by 1. So x would become 21 if I went to print it out at this line. If I went to print it out after this line, it would just be 20. But after this, I increment it up 1. It increments up to 21. Decrements, basically the same thing. So if I had x equals 20, just like what I had, if I decrement, so that's x minus minus, then it will be not 20, it will be 19. Okay. If you're looking at more information about those, solo learn, which I've attached for you guys, you would see them in your conditionals and loops, which would be good review to make sure you understand that. Or if you were looking at tutorials point, it would be right under the basic operators area, and you'd be able to see increment and decrement. Okay, they're really pretty easy. That's why I didn't really cover them on the other ones. Relational operators, though, are where we are testing for something that's going to return true or false. Okay, so we have a little bit different. Since we use just the equal sign as an assignment operator, then we are testing for equality if we use two of them. So does A equal B? This is basically what it's saying. Does A equal B? Okay. Now, whatever they are, if they're all the same type, if you're looking at 2 ints, you can test for that. You could run into difficulties if you're trying to use different types. Okay, the different ones that we have is greater than, we got less than, we have greater or equal to, and we got less than or equal to. Okay, now it's crucial to mention that all of these will, when you're asking those questions, will return a Boolean value. So they will return true or false. That's it. They're not going to return anything else. You're not assigning anything else to them. Okay, so that's it right there. The only other one that I haven't mentioned yet is this one. When I use this, the exclamation mark in front of just about anything, it means the opposite. It means not. So if I use not and this, then this means not equal to. Okay. So if I was saying, for example, this is my example. If I was saying, is 7 greater than 3, okay, this would return a true or false. Okay, so I would say it's true, but if I return this, I say that is the opposite. So if this returned true, then this whole thing would be false. Okay, so that would be equal to false. Okay, so this is very important because you're going to use a lot of these in your code when you start doing conditional statements. Okay, there are some other things though that we need to discuss, and that's logical operators. Logical operators are when we use something like and, or, and, well, not, which we just basically covered. Okay, just like this. We write it with two and signs, or two pipes for or we just put the exclamation mark right in front of the not. So if we're doing that in code, remember it's just this. The or is two pipes, so that's the, if you hold shift and you push the button right above the enter key, two pipes. And not is whenever you're using the exclamation mark for anything. So if I am trying to test something like, if it's raining and I have to go to school, then I want to, carry an umbrella. Well, I can test for that and if one is true and the other. Now for an and, for it to return true, both statements need to be true. Okay? For an or statement, it's either one has to be true or both. So at least one has to be true. For a not, it is the opposite of whatever the statement was going to be. So if I have to have everything be true, then I'm going to use the and. If I need to have just at least one of them to be true, then I'm going to use the or. And I can use any combination of these by nesting them inside of parentheses. So you can make really complex statements just by nesting them inside of parentheses. The other ones, the assignment operators, we already know one. We know that we can assign a value by using the equal sign. Can assign a value from right to left using the equal sign. Okay. The other thing, though, is that when you guys are playing with the BMI, a lot of times you were doing something like this. Inches is equal to feet times 12 plus inches. And that looks a little weird, but that's what we can do with code, because we can take whatever was originally stored in inches. I can take that and add whatever I had for my feet, multiply it by 12, and restore it back in the same variable. This saves memory. I can, instead of doing another variable that's called, say, total height, I can just combine it and put it all where it should go. A different way to write this, though, and this is where I could say inches plus equals, and I can do feet times 12. And what that is here is I'm saying that inches, I'm going to take whatever inches was, and I'm going to add this to it, and then store it back in inches. I can do the same thing with this, any operator. So that means I'm going to divide by whatever number is to the right of that equal sign, and then store it back in the inches. So I'm going to, if I was doing it with inches, I would divide that number. So let me give an example using the multiplication one, since we already have it. So if I was doing feet, and I wanted to store the amount of inches is in it, then I could do this and say, well, I'm going to take feet. So if I was 5 foot, I'm going to times that by 12 to get my number of inches. So I got 60 inches, and I'm going to store that back in feet. Okay, that would be one way that you could do it. We also have where we can use the modulus. We could use this. We can use this. All this is just a faster way to write the original variable. So it would be, let's just call it variable for now. Variable equals variable plus whatever would be the same as this. Variable equals variable minus would be the same as this. Okay, it'd be the same as me doing variable minus equals question mark. That's the exact same thing. It's just a faster way to write it. Okay, all of these are assignment operators. Okay. All right, so to do an if statement or a conditional statement, there's a couple of different ways that we can write it. All if statements are going to have, you're going to start with code, you're going to write it as if, and then you have to give a Boolean value here. So that means that you could use your relational operators in here to return a Boolean value. You can give it a straight Boolean value. You could use values, arithmetic operators, and then check with relational operators to see if they were returning true or false. And then you're going to have a set of brackets, the curly brackets. And basically, this code only gets executed if the Boolean value is true. Okay? If it's not, it's just going to skip. It's going to go to the end of the bracket and do whatever is after it. Okay? So this is a basic if statement. If I was to put it in my code, and so I want you guys can play around with this using your math tester. So if let me just comment out all of the stuff that we've already had. So I'm going to just surround it with block comments. All right, let's just give myself a bunch of space. All right, so let's say that we are doing, we're going to say first number is equal to 10, second number is equal to 20, and this is an int. All right, so now I have these. If I'm writing my statement, I'm going to say if, and then I put in parentheses. So this needs to return a true or false. So if I could say, if 10 is less than 20, well, that would be a true statement. So then I'm going to do what's in the bracket. So system.out.println, say second number, oops, actually, you know what? Second number is larger than first number. Okay, and if it's not, so let's go ahead and run this. $20 is larger than 10. Okay, now if I wanted to implement though something else, so I wanted it to do, well, what if that's not true? And I want to implement something. Okay, this is a basic if statement. As long as this is a Boolean value that's going to resort to true or false. Sometimes you guys will end up doing something like this. So if you're doing this, 10 is equal to 20, you know, we're not going to end up seeing this. We're going to end up going to the end of the code after the bracket and execute whatever is afterwards. But sometimes I see a lot of people end up doing something like this. And they say 10 to 20. And if you hover over it, it's saying incompatible types. It's required a Boolean and have found an int because this is an int and this is an int. And actually what you're trying to do is you're assigning this to this. So if you were trying to find out if your second number was equal to 20, this is not really doing that. All you're doing is you are assigning 20 back to your second number again. And so it's returning an int, not a Boolean. But if I wanted to test if they are equal, I need to make sure that I have two equal signs. It has to be a Boolean value. Okay. Now, I can do that, and I could say second number is now equal to 21, and I could do another if statement, and I could say, well, is second number equal to 20? And if so, then print this. Say second number is still equal to 20. Delete that line. And I can say second number is equal to 20. So if I'm testing this, I'm going to get inside of these brackets for the first one. 20 is equal to 20. But the second one, 20 is not equal to 20 anymore because it's 21. All right, so you could have a whole bunch of if statements, but there are other ways that we could do this. We could do else statements. So if that's not true, I could say, well, then else, and then just do a set of brackets. And I could change this. So let's say first number is equal to second number, like what we had. First number is equal to or is greater than second number. First number is greater, and then I could do it again. Else, right here, let's delete that out. Else, if that's not true, then we want to print that second number is greater. Second number is greater. So if the first number is greater than the second number, if this returns true, then it's going to go into this in between those brackets and return that first number is greater. If that's not true, then it's going to this else statement and it's printing this. Okay? If I run this, we'll get to see what it looks like. If you don't have the else and I just had this after the brackets, it's going to do it every time. So here it's saying 20 is greater, so it went to the else statement. It printed this one. Okay? But if I took this else statement off and I said, well, is the first number less than the second number? So it should do this. But what we're going to end up seeing is that it's going to end up doing all of them. It's going to do what's inside the brackets and whatever's after it unless I use, unless I use that else statement. I could also do multiple if statements following each other. I could say else if and do something else. Is first number less than second number? First number is less. Well, is first number greater than 0? First number is greater than 0. And you have to make sure you have the brackets. If you don't have the brackets, you're going to give yourself a lot of issues. So that's an else if. So I could have it check here first. If this is false, then it's going to check here. If this is false, then it's going to skip there and it's going to go to the next line. So I could do another else if statement. I could have it finally do an else statement. Print line. I don't know what you want. Okay. And then I can run this. So it's saying 10 is less, so it got us in here. First number is greater than second number. Let's go ahead and do it where it returns false. So the way that we wrote it, first number is not greater than second number. It's not going to do what's inside the brackets. It comes here. It does this. Is first number greater than 0? If that's true, it comes here. So if I make this also where it's going to return false, and I do this again, it's going to find this first one's false, this second one's false, so it's going to just return what is in the else statement. Okay, because everything resorted to false. All right. That is basically conditional statements in a nutshell. With these, we can do a lot. We're going to start doing a magic 8-ball program with this and a number guessing game. So go ahead and play around with your math tester. When you're done, practice uploading this to GitHub using GitKraken. Okay, so we would go here. We would check our math tester. Opening up GitKraken, and we would push the changes once it loads. So let me pause it while it loads. Okay, so if you open up GitKraken, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to, click the drop down and go to your math tester. And it's going to show that my remote and my local is on this same commit right here, but I have stuff in my work in progress that is newer. I have these. I have some IntelliJ pieces, and I have this math tester Java file that I just worked on. So I could stage all those changes and say added statements for conditional operations. Commit those changes. Again, that only syncs up with my local. It did not sync up with my remote, so I have to push. So once I push it up, then they will be in line, and then I can go ahead and I can check my GitHub and it will be back in line. All right. So I can see that I did that change. Okay, and we can look at the commits, see added statements for conditional operations, so it shows. So again, if you want to study some more on this, and the tutorials point link that I gave you, you could read more about that. It is in the basic operators, and you guys could also test yourself using Solo Learn under conditionals and loops. All right, next video I'm going to explain what you guys can do for your next project.